Hi, and welcome back to the Seller Seminar series that I've been hosting. And recently just had on my home inspector. Last week we had a photographer, and our kickoff was with the home stager. And part of the home selling process and the value and the education I'm trying to give to you is to prepare and be proactive. And tonight now, I'm bringing on one of my lenders that I work closely with. And although you're maybe thinking, well, they're going to represent the buyer, but you're going to be a buyer as well. And you also need to know the process a little bit better and be more well-informed. So tonight, my guest is Larry Montani from Cross Country Mortgage.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Thank you.
So as I started to say, you don't think of a lender working, where's the seller fit into this? But you're going to be receiving contracts, and you're also probably selling your house and buying something else. And it doesn't necessarily mean everyone sells their house and buys something for cash. It may not be the most beneficial or financial, best decision for you, because a mortgage may be your better route, and using that money and investing it somehow another way. Yep. And so it's not just always the buyer side. But with a buyer, I wanted to bring Larry on and talk to sellers about a lot of things that are, I think, misconceptions about information that agents are talking about with these offers that do come in. And as Larry and I know, the inventory, again, I've said this a million times and I'm going to say it again, is very, very low here. Just spoke an hour ago. It hasn't changed. We have about 1,000 listings here in Monmouth County, and we have a lot of buyers, right, Larry?
Activity with buyers is not the issue.
No.
Supply and demand.
Buyers are definitely approved, and why I like to work closely with certain lenders, because I know if I'm going to receive an offer from not only Larry's team or his company, I understand the process that they take to approve that buyer. But if I'm not familiar with the companies and I'm the listing agent, I would refer to Larry about a few questions I have. So he's a resource for me, whether or not I'm using as a buyer's agent or I'm representing you as a seller's agent. So Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of these crazy stories that we talk about with a buyer, qualifying them? What exactly, what are we looking for? What is a seller going to look at when we sit down with, could be 2 or 4 contracts?
Well, I would say, Gerine, let's begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And the end in mind is that you as a seller want to make sure you can close, opting for the most amount of money.
Right.
But truthfully, the best deal is the one that actually closes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the highest price is not always the best deal. And as Gerine knows, it's really important working with your agent that they have a lender partner as an advocate in the process, so as to vet out the prospective buyers or whoever of your home, because not every buyer is equal.
No.
Not every buyer is as qualified as it might be perceived. So the lending relationship with a realtor on the listing side, when you're selling a house for you as the sellers, is such that they can actually make sure that the person that's making the offer can perform.
And if I can just interrupt there, it's a nice collaboration in the sense that if I'm their listing agent and I know the agent who's the buyer agent, and I've worked with them before, I've been in the business almost 19 years this year. If I work with them and I know that their reputation and what their model of business is, I'm going to feel comfortable when they bring me an offer, because I know that they've vetted out their client as well. If it's someone I'm not familiar with, I'm definitely leaning on my partners like you to help me figure that out, so that we can bring you, the seller, the best contracts, the most that we feel is going to be successful for closing.
And as you said earlier, as a seller, in all likelihood, you're going to buy something else.
Yeah.
So it's really important for you as a seller to understand what your options are going to be at the same time or right before you list your house, because then it's going to help you understand what you really need to net to make the next move. Now, everyone wants to net the most amount of money in any market. But the fact is, if you go through the process as a seller and get all your ducks in a row financially, you position yourself in a better way for your next move. Well, if you want that done for yourself, you should expect it from a prospective buyer that walks in. And if the buyer is not truly vetted out and hasn't been properly approved And there's a very big difference, which is totally misunderstood in the market. And it's been misunderstood for the 38 years I've been doing this, is that it can't be this fast, easy, quick thing. You can't call a lender in 5 minutes, get pre-approved.
Right.
That's a pre-qualification. And although they may ultimately qualify, if you had to stack up, Gerine, 3 different offers and 3 letters of qualification, this is where the partnership of the lender with the realtor is a big plus for any seller, because the seller knows they've got a team of people behind them to make sure that the offer they're accepting is the one that can actually get across the finish line.
And what one of my proactive approaches, and I discuss with sellers, and whether you hire me as your realtor or not, you should be asking your realtor these questions. How are you vetting out these buyers? What are you doing to ensure that they are qualified? There is a processing that as they fill out their applications and they submit all of their documentation for the mortgage process, it provides whether they're eligible or not eligible, or there's different levels of or designations. I'm not using the correct terminology there, I'm sure. But if they're not eligible for that, it's going to kick it out right away. We're going to know, well, what does it do? The lender's going to know what are they going to do to fix that to make them a higher or more stronger buyer. If I don't have a relationship with this lender, I don't know what process they've been through. And it's been very difficult. There's many online services. I don't know if they're bad or not. I'm not trying to poo-poo anybody, but I do know that the people that I work with, I know what their process is. I understand it. And I'm grateful when you take and even look at something that wasn't even originally from your office.
Well, look, that's what a partnership does. And that's why you hire someone like Gerine, because she's bringing this team of people in that would absolutely help out. And not every letter is the same. Every lender, if you read the fine print, usually most of them have subject to everything under the sun. That means it's not what you think it is.
Yeah.
And therefore, and then the things you have to also look at, Gerine, we talked about earlier before we came on live, is some of these contingencies that are put in.
Yes.
So for example, if a buyer says they're going to waive their appraisal contingency, that doesn't mean the lender is not doing an appraisal.
Yes.
And if it doesn't appraise, which although the market has gone up the last several years in appreciation, but it doesn't always catch up as fast, that means that buyer's got to cover the difference. And you as a seller have to recognize in selecting that offer that the buyer really needs to understand it. And then the buyer needs to be vetted out. Do they have the capital to make up the difference if that occurs? And we see it all the time.
I have, especially the last 3 years, a lot of new agents have come into the market. And I think that, they see a lot of Facebook or any social media, or just, they're learning from others. Like, oh, you got to waive appraisal, you got to waive an inspection, you got to waive these things, and not truly understanding that. And I have had several buyers refer to me from past clients that I helped because they were under the impression that, they were under the misinformation that they didn't have to come up with that money.
Right.
So if they're coming over $50,000 over list price, and it doesn't appraise at that $50,000 over list price, they need to come up with the $50,000.
And too often it's not thoroughly explained to the lender.
Yeah.
No, the right thing to do for yourself as a prospective buyer upon sale and getting this pre-approval in place is that the lender needs to explain all these options.
Yeah.
And Gerine, as the agent's job in vetting out as a seller, is to look at all this, but as your buyer's agent, when you go to buy, understanding these little nooks and crannies. The other one is, and it is the interesting part, there are so many programs from which to choose from. Yeah. And there's conventional loans and there's government loans. And there's a perception I see all the time, Gerine, that a government-oriented loan, such as an FHA or VA loan, is not a good deal. Right. Or low money down is a weaker buyer. That is not necessarily true. Matter of fact, it's very much not the case, because these loans are insured by the government. Right. So it's easier to qualify. The guidelines are not stricter. Yeah. It's a little bit more particular with the safety of the house, which is your CO items anyway. Right, right. So don't put yourself in a box as a seller and say, if it's this client doing this financing, they're automatically a no,
They shouldn't be.
because it's not accurate in most
No, it
cases.
really isn't. And I can tell you, I've seen many loans close. I've seen conventional loans not close. I've never seen a VA loan that I've worked with that hasn't closed. So, I mean, it really is a misconception. And, if they are putting down, whether it's a small amount or a large amount of deposit money, sellers, you do not keep that. It's held in escrow at the attorney's office or the title company. If the deal does not go through, 99.9% of the time, unless there's a separate lawsuit going on, that money's going right back to the buyer. So whether they're putting down 3.5% or 50%, you're not keeping it if the deal does not go through. And so it's definitely a misconception.
If you qualify, you qualify, period,
Yeah.
right? And to your point, that money's sitting in an escrow account. The seller's not getting their hands on that money. So a lot of times, we hear all the time, if someone putting 20% down is better than 10% down. Maybe not better for the client. Maybe not better for the client. Appraisal stricter. They're not stricter. The appraisal process is the same. And the value of the home has nothing to do with the program.
Right.
The program doesn't drive the value. The value is based on 3 to 6 homes of like size or quality that have closed in the last 3 to 6 months. It does nothing to do with the program. So understanding these differences is so important for you as a seller. So that you're selecting the buyer based on the true value of who they are as buyers.
Exactly. And if they have the finances to waive an appraisal difference, it's not the appraisal, it's the difference. I always ask, as the listing agent, and if I represent the buyer, I would say, I need to see proof of funds. I need to show them that you can financially do that, so that if they choose your offer, that's what they're basing it on. Because if it's just, it's not monopoly money. I want to see that it's factual.
Well, it's interesting, Gerine. I had a client recently do the same thing. They had to provide source of funds for what might be the difference.
Yeah.
Right? Just because the seller, as they should, through their realtor, want to have a little bit more security. So the client provided a statement. Well, the client provided their retirement statement, which they're not cashing in.
Right.
So what's important, the subtle difference there is, they have assets, but unless that's assets they're going to tap into, they really don't have those assets.
No.
And that's where it's not just a statement, quick answer. It just takes time to have those professionals that are looking at everything and making sure that the information is just right, so that you as a seller are able to confidently move forward to your next move, wherever that might be.
Depending on what that account is, has in it, if the market changes, that's going to be zero, or it could be very low, and it's never going to cover anything. So, you have to, as your representative, I am looking out for all of these little nuances that are important to make sure that the deal that is coming in is going to be a deal that's going to close. That's what we're looking for. Not 25 offers. You know what? You need one offer. You don't need 25 offers. Even if you have 2 offers, you want to compare those 2 offers and see which is the best.
And again, put yourself in. It's interesting as seller in the market we're in. This many buyers for this many sellers. Well, if you're going to become the buyer, you're going to be on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So you want to be able to do the same things that you're expecting, and understanding those items are so important for you. It becomes an education, not for yourself, just for yourself when buying, but as a seller, and knowing all those things. And the right agent, like Gerine, is going to absolutely articulate that up front, so you don't get masked with the glory of the biggest number.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get the biggest number and they close very smoothly, and most times they do, but you don't want to get hung out to dry.
The process of selling a home, I'm kind of breaking it down to things that I provide to you with my services for you. But it's important to see that they all together, when you get that offer, you're negotiating terms and price. Okay. Then you're negotiating the inspection. Then you're negotiating, it could be the appraisal. There's a lot of pieces to this contract until we close. Even to get the mortgage commitment, approaching that date. What if it's past the date? What if the buyer needs an extension and they have to now, the rate lock is expired. There's so many pieces to it, and you've got to be someone, you got to hire someone that is following the process and understands it. And I think that's what I'm trying to get through to you as a seller, and I'm hoping that you understand that what value we bring to you as a realtor is a lot broader than what you think.
You know, I said this once at a client appointment. It just, I didn't pre-script it. It just came out. A client goes, my God, you guys asked for a lot of stuff. And I just go, we're lending you a lot of money.
Exactly.
So if you look at it from that paradigm, through that lens, there's a lot going on because it's the biggest asset for most people. And there's a million moving parts. And you've got to surround yourself with all the professionals to get the right things done for you. Because let's be honest, most people sell how many homes in less than 3 or 4?
Yeah.
So, and the market, although it's changed,
Yeah.
the fundamentals have not.
Right. And, you know, it's funny, until you walk the walk, you can't talk the talk. And even though I've been doing this for years, when I bought my house 10 years ago and I've refied it and everything, I remember saying the same thing. Why do I have to provide all this paperwork? Oh my God, this is crazy. I thought I already did that. And I'm laughing at myself because I sounded exactly like my clients. And I said, well, now I get it. I feel your pain.
Well, you know, look, it's from Cy Sims, owned a clothing store for years.
Yeah.
An educated consumer is our best customer.
Yeah.
This is all to me about educating, giving you this information, and it just makes it, there's not that there's no stress, but you demystify the problems that occur, which is why, as you know, Gerine, we have a flow chart we give out at our events that talk about all the steps, and there's a lot. But again, you're like the quarterback in the process, and you're assigning everything out and having an agent to handle this. Doing this on your own, as you can see, there's a lot more to it than just putting it out and getting a contract.
And even if you are a seller who is, you know, financially thinking, you know what, I'm gonna buy, but I'm gonna use my cash. Okay, but we're here. You know, you can lean on me. You can call a lender like Larry. You call him and ask. You know, I may not be using your services, but you are, you know, you're an agent that you work with recommended I ask you a couple of questions because I want to be clear about this contract that came in, and I want to understand that. And I know you're the person that would also sit and just take those few minutes to do that.
And look, I think this has not been said, and it sounds really simple, but this is all about communication, right? So as you should expect that everyone that you are asking to work with you, that you're contracting out, whether it's the realtor or the lender or the home inspector, is really informing you about all the details that go into it. Because I have found when people are explained, it's not like we need this. Well, we need this because. Yeah. And here's why it gets done. As long as people understand that up front, it makes it more informative and makes it not necessarily easier, but you navigate it through it a little less with a little less stress, which is really what we're talking about today.
Exactly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this episode tonight is so that you understand as a seller what financials that you should be, you know, if you're not working with a realtor that can explain to you, you know, why do you think I should only look at this kind of loan? Why are you saying that's not good? Or what is it about the deposit? Or if they don't have answers for you, you have the right to pick up the phone and call your lender or Larry or someone and ask, can I ask you a couple of questions? Because I want to understand this. You know, it's not about the most money. It's about the most qualified person that can close the deal.
So we talked earlier, begin with the end in mind. I think it's important, Gerine, for all the sellers out there to really get with a lender, whoever that might be, and understand how you're going to structure your financing for your next move. Yeah. So a lot of people right now are saying, I don't know if I should sell because the rates are higher. Yes, rates are higher than they've been in about 10 years, but the trend looks like, based on projections, that we're going to be in the mid to high fives potentially in about a year and a half. So by buying now, you're getting ahead of the fact. If selling now, you're ideally maximizing dollars for you, but understand how you're going to use the mortgage as a vehicle to harvest long-term wealth. The reason you may not want to put down a lot is because you may want to take that money and use it for other things in your life, whether it be higher education, home improvements, maybe buy another property. And having this behind you in advance is going to make you more informed. And then you say, hey, the best deal then becomes, when can we close?
And home values with the low inventory that we have are not dropping. They're going up. So they're going to go up this year and next year. By the time the rates do adjust a little bit more, you've already made 8% on your house, and you're going to refinance. You're going to walk away with some cash, and you didn't do anything. I mean,
well, it's interesting. We work with a lot of prospective buyers, obviously,
Yeah.
and we have a lot where inventory waiting to find homes. But some people are sitting on the sideline street and saying, you know what, we're going to wait until rates go down. The problem is so many people have that mindset. And when they do go down, and at some point they will lower, how much, how fast, we don't know. When that floods into the market, what's going to happen? The amount of inventory is not growing at the same pace. Therefore, the competition's greater. And with greater competition comes greater price. Now, that's good as a seller,
Sure.
but remember, think about your next step, because you want to be positioned for that as well.
Exactly. And if you've been in your home for 20 or plus years, and you've made your equity in it, and even if you have a lower rate because you refied a few years ago, you still have done very well. So if it's not about getting that mortgage or whatever, I can guide you. If you don't have a financial advisor, we have plenty of contacts we work with that would sit down and structure something and a plan for you, whether you want, you can invest some money and use that money as dividends to pay the mortgage on the next house, and you're going to not have to worry about losing, your deposit money or putting down so much money. So there's so many things that we can sit with you and go over. It's not just about the lending side. So, we're here as your resource. I really hope that there's any further information that you think you want to share. Please reach out. I would love for you to go online. Again, my website, thegerineteam.com, has a couple of these flyers here. All of my speakers that I've had in the last few seminars have all provided me with checklists and some pointers on information that could help you and refresh you on some of the things that we've talked about in each one of our seminars. So I look forward to answering any of your questions. If you have any, you can message me, DM me, text me, email me, but my number is 908-902-4778. Larry, why don't you give me your information?
Thanks, Gerine. We're at the Cross Country Mortgage, Homedale, New Jersey. Phone number is 732. My cell phone, 732-832-6672. We look forward to helping you out in your journey of selling your house.
Thank you.